Welcome back to Tax Hacks with Alli. I'm your host, Alli. I'm a tax professional, and I want to talk to you about pennies on the dollar settlements with the IRS. So, you may have heard some commercials, and you especially are listening and tuning in if you owe IRS, you can't afford to pay them, and you heard some commercials that said you might not have to pay them all that you owe them. You might be able to negotiate pennies on the dollar. Don't pay IRS, call us instead. And so there's a lot of firms out there that specialize in these programs that are called offers in compromise, OIC. And there's special qualifications to be a good candidate for an offer in compromise. So I don't want you to be fooled into giving these firms your money if you're not a good candidate. So a lot of these firms won't even talk to you, won't review your tax situation or advise you without an upfront payment of sometimes up to $3,000 to just even talk to you and look at the options with you. So to save you a couple bucks, I want to tell you kind of what makes you a good candidate for an offer in compromise. If you had a one-time income situation, so you won the lottery, you maybe had a loan with an employer and left employment or got fired or something, got laid off, and a loan from your 401k would become due at that point. So if that something like that happened, then all of a sudden you had a one-time income event that caused a tax liability. And if you cannot afford to pay that back within 6 years on a payment plan, you may be a good candidate for an offer in compromise. If you have had a change in your financial situation, assets, or your ability to earn money. So let's say you had a normal job, a normal situation, you owed some tax money, filed maybe some late tax returns, or something happened where all of a sudden you had some tax liability taxes due that you couldn't afford, and things have changed. You're no longer going to be able to work. You became disabled. You lost an arm. You had some sort of medical condition that doesn't allow you to work anymore or have the same capacity to earn anymore, then you might be a good candidate for an offer in compromise. People who are not a good candidate for an offer in compromise are people who have significant assets. So if you have more than your primary residence, let's say you have a rental property, if you have more than one home, you're not a good candidate. IRS would like to see you sell your second home to pay off their debts. If there's equity, they certainly would want to see you do that. I've even seen them ask people to try and get a refinance on their homes, to take the equity out of their homes to pay off their debts before they're going to settle or negotiate on a payment plan. You are not a good candidate for an offer in compromise if you have any significant retirement funds available to you, if you have money in savings, if you have a boat or recreational vehicles. IRS would like you to sell those and take care of paying them. And so, I think that expectation from them is reasonable when you have these extracurricular assets that you might be able to cash in on. So you want to look at that when you're hearing these ads for offer and compromise, pennies on the dollar on your debts to IRS. Has something changed? Are you not able to pay IRS? Do you have limited assets? Are you going to be able to pay IRS? Is there a prospect for you to get back into a good job or something like that within the next few years? IRS has 10 years to collect on this debt from you. So if there's an opportunity for you to make this money back, if you look like a good candidate where you're going to be able to afford to pay them over the next 10 years, they don't want to settle this debt. They want to collect that money. But if it looks like you're just going to not, in the next 10 years, you're not going to increase your ability to pay them, that's when you become a good candidate for an offer in compromise. So how do you figure out what you should offer them? Well, you're going to look at what you can afford to pay them. So if all you can afford to pay them after your monthly income and expenses, which they on their terms of what is an allowable monthly income, what's your income, whatever you're receiving, whether it's disability or employment or alimony, if you have a fixed income, or if you have business and business income, what net income do you have per month? And what normal necessary living expenses do you have per month? So do you have, let's say you have your rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, you have your utilities, your phone, You have food, clothing, automobile expenses. So when you total all those up, you get your monthly expenses, and you take your monthly income minus your expenses, and whatever's left is what you can afford to pay IRS. So if you're negative and you're living on credit cards, you can't afford to pay them anything. You're a very good candidate for an offer in compromise, and you can offer them very little, maybe $500. I don't know. It doesn't even matter how big the debt is. It's how much could you pay them? If they're not going to get anything from you over the next 10 years, getting anything is better than nothing. And so if you can afford to pay them $5 a month, then they can stand to get $600 from you over the next 10 years. So you're going to want to offer something better than what they're going to be able to collect on you. So if you're able to pay them nothing per month, then any kind of offer might be accepted. And if you're able to pay them something a month, you want to calculate that out over a 10-year period monthly. And whatever that number is, you need to bring in an offer that's going to probably exceed that to be a viable offer for them, something that looks good. So imagine if you were in their shoes, someone owed you money, and you're not going to get anything from them. You're going to take what you can get, wipe your hands of it, and move on. And if you can get something from them, you don't want to settle for less than that. You want to at least get what you would be able to get. There's some other stipulations when you do an offer in compromise. One is you can't owe a debt to IRS again for the upcoming 3 years. So let's say you do an offer, you guys find out you're not going to end up being able to pay them anything per month. You're living on credit cards. So they accept your offer for $300 to settle your debt of $10,000. Great. So you pay them the $300, and now you file your next 2 tax returns, and the third one you owe again. Well, all of a sudden, that's going to wake up that old debt, and that $10,000 is going to be due again. So you cannot owe them. You need to fully pay any tax liabilities by the due date of April 15th for upcoming tax returns for the next 3 years. For the next year, for the following year after the offer is accepted, they will take that refund, any refund you have, unless it exceeds the total that you owed. So for example, you owed $10,000, you settle for $300, you pay them the $300. The next tax return you file, you have a $1,000 refund. They're going to take that refund. The second year you file and you have a $1,000 refund, you get to receive your refund. So it's a pretty good program when you don't have any prospects of being able to pay them and it doesn't look like you'll be able to pay them. When you're looking at what they might collect off of you, those future refunds is something to kind of take into consideration as well. So in order to file this offer in compromise, you're going to file a form 656 OIC. And so go on to irs.gov and search in the search box 656, and you'll get the instructions in the form. It's multiple pages. Fill out anything that applies to you. Cross out or write NA for not applicable or 0 on anything that doesn't apply to you. And go ahead and submit that following the directions, and they will assign that to somebody who will contact you. They'll ask for more information on anything that they need to collect more data on, and then they'll let you know if it's a good offer. If you've got some more complex items or you think you are a good candidate, then it may be worth hiring one of the firms that is a offer firm that this is all they do. They're really good at it, and they can kind of pinpoint what amount you should send in. They'll help you collect all the data and put it together. So if that's a value to you, then go ahead and pay the $3,000 to $5,000 to have a firm help you with that. All right. Well, hopefully you don't owe IRS and you won't need to file an offer in compromise, but it is something out there to kind of give people a fresh start when they've gotten over their head with tax liabilities. I hope this has helped, and we'll see you again soon for some more tax information.